Pooh Shiesty's story is one of the wildest comebacks in hip-hop right now. The Memphis rapper was supposed to be locked up until 2026, but in October 2025 he walked out of federal prison after only 3 years. When the news first broke, nobody believed it. Fans thought it was just another internet rumor. But then his lawyer Bradford Cohen jumped on Instagram and confirmed it. Pooh Shiesty was really free. Let's rewind and talk about how he got locked up in the first place. Back in October 2020, right before his career was about to explode, Shiesty caught a case that almost destroyed everything. He rented a McLaren in Florida and set up a meeting with some guys to buy drugs and sneakers. But when one of them showed up to make the deal, shots were fired. Someone got hit. Shiesty left the scene before police arrived, but here's where it gets crazy. He dropped a Louis Vuitton bag full of money on the ground, and the cops traced it right back to him. They arrested him and let him out on bond. Then just a few months later, he allegedly shot a security guard in the ankle at a club. Now he's facing armed robbery, aggravated assault, battery, and a stack of other charges. If he took this case to trial, he could have gotten life in prison. Life. His lawyer Bradford Cohen said the feds wanted to give him 10 years even with a plea deal. But Shiesty made the smart move. He pleaded guilty, got some charges dropped, and the judge gave him 5 years instead. 5 years is still a long time, especially when you're at the peak of your career, but Shiesty kept his head down in prison. No drama, no problems, and because of that, they let him out after just 3 years. Right now, he's not completely free though. He's at a halfway house, which means he can go out during the day and handle his business, but he has to check back in at night. It's like being on a leash, but at least he's not behind bars anymore. The first thing Shiesty did when he got out, he went straight to the jeweler and dropped $100,000 on a new chain. After 3 years locked up, you'd think his money would be tight, but clearly his pockets are still deep. Then he linked up with his boy Big 30, one of his closest homies and co-founder of Shiesty Gang. Big 30 handed him a fat bankroll just to celebrate him coming home. That's love right there. But Shiesty wasn't just focused on money and jewelry. He had other things on his mind too. He's been trying to get at Cardi B for a minute. When he came home, he hopped in her Instagram comments and wrote, "I love you." This wasn't even the first time he shot his shot. Back in August 2024, when Cardi was going through her divorce with Offset, Shiesty commented on her IG live from prison saying, "I'm 5 minutes away, baby, open the door." Unfortunately for him, it looks like that ship has sailed. Cardi B is now with Stefon Diggs from the New England Patriots, and they're about to have their first kid together. Now let's talk about his music. Shiesty hasn't dropped anything new in 2 years, but his fans have been waiting. His last track was Federal Contraband 2, and he literally recorded it on the jail phone. In that song, he raps about how brutal prison was. He talks about losing people, the violence inside, and the pain of being locked away from everything. One of the most emotional parts of the track is when he talks about his cousin Big Scar. Big Scar and Pooh Shiesty are blood. They came up together. Shiesty was the one who linked Big Scar up with Gucci Mane. Shiesty was already signed to Gucci's 1017 label, and when Scar started making music, Shiesty got on the phone with Gucci and helped his cousin get a deal. Big Scar had a crazy life. He survived getting shot back in 2020, but then Pooh Shiesty got locked up, and that was the last time they ever saw each other. In December 2022, Big Scar died from an accidental overdose that hit Shiesty hard. On Federal Contraband 2, he raps about being on bad terms with Scar before he died, saying he couldn't even tell him he loved him. He talks about how Scar had drug issues and how he tried to help him, but it wasn't enough. Shiesty says he found out about Scar's death through a correctional officer who let him call his mom. He raps about feeling like he failed as a brother because he couldn't stop the drugs from killing his cousin. That's heavy. Losing someone you love while you're locked up and can't do anything about it. That's a different kind of pain. But Big Scar's death wasn't the only thing that changed while Shiesty was locked up. The whole Memphis scene shifted, and now 2 of his closest homies are in the middle of a deadly beef. Big 30 and Moneybagg Yo. Big 30 is one of Shiesty's day ones. They started Shiesty Gang together. Both of them were blowing up in the rap game at the same time. Big 30 got signed to Moneybagg Yo's label around the same time. Pooh Shiesty signed with Gucci Mane. Back then, all three of them were jumping on tracks together. Everything seemed cool. But while Shiesty was locked up, Big 30 and Moneybagg started beefing, and Moneybagg tried to drag Shiesty into it. Big 30 got connected to Moneybagg through his cousin Nusky. Nusky came up in the streets and ended up getting a deal with Moneybagg's Bread Gang label, but Big 30 claimed that Moneybagg only signed him and Nusky because he needed shooters for protection. Then in 2022, Nusky got killed. On Federal Contraband 2, Shiesty shouted him out along with other fallen members, saying they lived through him. Shiesty hasn't publicly said anything about the beef between Big 30 and Moneybagg, but Moneybagg has been name-dropping Shiesty in his diss tracks. He's been throwing shots, saying things like, "I feel like I don't need no security in the club," and questioning Big 30's loyalty. Big 30 and his crew were allegedly putting in work for Moneybagg, and after Nusky got killed, Big 30's homie Cheese Dollar also got shot and killed a couple months later. This beef is serious, and there are rumors that Shiesty already has diss tracks ready to drop at Moneybagg, but hopefully he keeps his head down because he almost threw his whole life away once already. Before Shiesty got locked up, he was actually trying to stay out of Memphis drama. When he first started blowing up, the Young Dolph and Yo Gotti war was tearing up the streets. Shiesty didn't want to sign to either of them and have to pick a side in that beef. That's why he signed with Gucci Mane instead of someone from Memphis. He wanted to stay neutral. But even though he avoided the Dolph and Gotti situation, he still had plenty of drama in the city. He was beefing with another Memphis rapper named Big Boogie. Nobody really knows what started it, but rumors said that Shiesty gang pulled up to one of Boogie's shows in Mississippi back in 2020 and left 2 people dead. Shiesty was also beefing with a crew called EBG. After Shiesty blew up with his hit Back in Blood, a guy named EBG E-Jizzle remixed the track and dissed Shiesty, saying he was a snitch and questioning his street credibility. Just a couple weeks after E-Jizzle dropped that diss, someone pulled up on him and shot him. Rumors flew that E-Jizzle was paralyzed from the shooting and that Shiesty was clowning him for not being able to walk anymore. Turns out E-Jizzle just caught a bullet in the arm and wasn't actually paralyzed, but the message was clear. Shiesty was still connected to the streets, even though he was running up huge numbers in the music industry. And those street connections run deep. Shiesty's not just some rapper playing a character, his dad is a guy named Mob Boss. And back in 2004, he was allegedly involved in a murder. Mob Boss was always catching cases when Shiesty was a kid, and he allegedly worked with a legendary Memphis drug lord named Ronnie Woods. Woods ran a crew called the Memphis Mob, and they basically owned the whole city for decades. Mob Boss was also trying to make it in the rap game. He even had his own track called Mob Tays. Shiesty used to be in the studio with his dad when he was just a kid, but nobody knew back then that Pooh was gonna hop in the booth and take over. Shiesty dropped his first track with Big 30 in March 2019, and everything he dropped after that was buzzing from the jump. By 2020, he was already working with huge names like Gucci Mane and Lil Baby. Then Back in Blood with Lil Durk dropped, and that took Pooh Shiesty to a whole other level. That song went platinum. It was everywhere. But just a month before Back in Blood dropped, Shiesty caught the case that almost sent him away for life. That timing is crazy. He was right on the edge of superstardom, and one bad decision almost took it all away. Now that he's out, the big question is what's next? It's not even clear if he's still signed to Gucci Mane. His last single, Federal Contraband 2, was distributed by his own Chopper Gang label instead of 100 and 100 and 100s. But even if Gucci and Shiesty don't have a deal anymore, that doesn't mean they're not cool. Gucci hopped on Instagram and shouted Shiesty out when the news of his release broke. It looks like Shiesty wants to come back and take over with his own crew. On Federal Contraband 2, he said, "I'm the biggest. Ain't no CEO or OG over me. I'm CEO status." Getting locked up for 3 years definitely stopped Pooh Shiesty from really taking over the game, but he still has a lot of buzz on his name. If he plays it right, he could pick up exactly where he left off. But he needs to move fast. He doesn't want to end up like Bobby Shmurda or Young Thug. Shmurda had massive hype when he came home from prison, but he waited way too long to drop new music. By the time he finally released something, nobody cared anymore. His tour got canceled because he couldn't sell tickets. Young Thug is still huge, but he fumbled too. After beating his RICO case, he waited forever to drop new music, and that killed some of his momentum. Pooh Shiesty's first album went platinum, and he still has fans rocking with him. But the clock is ticking. He needs to get in the studio and remind people why they fell in love with his music in the first place. The streets are watching, the industry is watching, and everyone wants to see if he can make a real comeback. Memphis is heating up, and Pooh Shiesty is right in the middle of it all.